The ship was falling apart. Lieutenant Yuna gripped the control panel as the horizon's edge shook like a toy in the hands of an angry child. Red lights flashed everywhere. Alarms screamed. Smoke filled the cockpit, making it hard to breathe and even harder to see. "We're losing the left engine," Sergeant Taiho shouted from behind her. He was a big man with a calm voice, but right now, even he sounded scared. "And the right one is not looking good either." Yuna pulled hard on the controls. The ship did not listen. It kept falling, spinning, dying. Through the cracked window, she could see a planet rushing up to meet them. It was beautiful in a strange way. The surface was covered with what looked like glass forests, shining under the light of 3 distant suns. She had never seen anything like it. "Jiwon, what's our status?" Yuna called out. Corporal Jiwon was their medic. She was small but tough, with quick hands and an even quicker mind. Right now she was trying to keep Private Minho from flying across the cabin. The young soldier was barely 22 years old, and this was only his 3rd mission in space. "We have minor injuries," Jiwon reported. "Nothing serious yet. But if we hit the ground at this speed, that will change very fast." Yuna knew she was right. She also knew there was nothing she could do about it. The hyperdrive had failed without warning, throwing them out of faster-than-light travel and straight into the gravity well of this unknown planet. They had no power. They had no control. They had only luck, and luck was running out. "Everyone hold on," she shouted. "We're going down." The horizon's edge hit the atmosphere like a stone hitting water. Fire wrapped around the ship. The heat became intense. Yuna felt sweat running down her face as she fought with the dead controls, trying to angle the ship, trying to slow their fall, trying to do anything at all. For a moment, she thought about her family back on Earth, her mother, who had begged her not to join the military, her father, who had been so proud when she became an officer, her little niece, who thought Aunt Yuna was a superhero who flew among the stars. What would they think when they learned she died on some unnamed world at the edge of known space? Then the ship hit the ground, and Yuna stopped thinking about anything at all. She woke up to silence. That was the first thing she noticed. The alarms had stopped. The engines had stopped. Everything had stopped. For a terrible moment, she thought she might be dead. Then pain hit her like a wave, and she knew she was very much alive. Dead people did not hurt this much. "Lieutenant?" It was Minho's voice, young and worried. "Lieutenant, can you hear me?" Yuna opened her eyes. The cockpit was destroyed. Wires hung from the ceiling like dead snakes. Broken glass covered everything. Smoke still floated in the air, but it was thinner now. Through a hole in the hull, she could see strange light filtering in. Blue and green and purple, all mixed together. "I'm okay," she said, though she was not sure if that was true. She touched her head and felt blood, but not too much. She moved her arms and legs. Nothing was broken. She had been lucky. Taiho appeared beside her, helping her stand. His face was cut in several places, and his left arm hung at an odd angle, but he was moving. He was alive. "Jiwon is checking Minho," he said. "The kid hit his head pretty hard, but he seems fine. What about you?" "I'll live." Yuna looked around at the wreckage of her ship. 3 months ago, the horizon's edge had been brand new, fresh from the Earth shipyards. Now it was scrap metal. "Can we send a distress signal?" "Already tried. Communications are mostly dead, but I managed to get a short message out." Taiho paused. "We got something back. Just fragments. Something about this planet. And something called sleepers. They kept telling us not to do something, but the signal cut out before I could understand what. Sleepers." Yuna did not like the sound of that word. It made her think of something waiting. Something patient, Something dangerous. Let's get outside, she said. We need to see where we are. The four of them climbed out of the broken ship and stepped onto the surface of the unknown world. What they saw made all of them stop and stare. The forest was made of crystal. Trees rose high into the sky, but they were not trees like any Yuna had ever seen. They were made of something that looked like glass or diamond, with branches that spread out in impossible patterns. They glowed from inside, soft colors pulsing through them like slow heartbeats. Blue, green, purple, pink. The colors moved and changed, making the whole forest look alive. What is this place? Minho whispered. He had a bandage on his head from where Jiwon had treated him, but his eyes were wide with wonder, not pain. Despite everything, he looked excited. That was the thing about Minho. He found beauty in the strangest places. I don't know, Yuna admitted, but we need to be careful. We don't know what lives here. They walked slowly through the crystal forest, their boots crunching on ground that sparkled like snow made of diamonds. The air was warm and sweet, with a strange smell that reminded Yuna of flowers and electricity mixed together. It was not unpleasant, but it was alien. Everything here was alien. After about 10 minutes of walking, Jiwon held up her hand. Wait, I'm picking up something on my scanner. They all stopped. Yuna's hand went to her weapon. Taiho raised his rifle with his good arm. Even Minho, young as he was, got into a defensive position. What is it? Yuna asked quietly. Jiwon stared at her scanner, her face showing confusion. Life signs. Hundreds of them. But they're strange. The readings say they're alive, but also not alive. Like they're sleeping very, very deeply. They move forward more carefully now, following Jiwon's scanner through the glowing trees. The light around them changed, becoming deeper, more purple. The trees grew closer together. The air grew thicker, and then they saw them, cocoons. Hundreds and hundreds of cocoons, attached to the crystal trees like fruit. They were large, each one big enough to hold a full-grown human. They were made of the same crystal material as the trees, but darker, more solid. And inside each one, something was visible. Something with too many limbs. Something not human. The sleepers, Taiho said quietly. This must be what the message was warning us about. Yuna stared at the cocoons. There was something terrible about them, but also something sad. These creatures, whatever they were, had been here for a very long time. Sleeping. Waiting. For what? Nobody touch anything, she ordered. We need to get back to the ship and try to boost our distress signal. Whatever this place is, we don't want to be here any longer than we have to. But Minho was not listening. He had walked ahead of the group, drawn by something the others could not see. He stopped in front of one cocoon that hung lower than the others. Inside, he could see the creature more clearly. It was smaller than the others. Younger, maybe. And as he watched, it moved. Just a little. Just enough that its eyes opened. They were beautiful eyes, Minho thought. They looked like they held entire galaxies inside them. Stars and planets and moons, all swirling together in an endless dance. And in those eyes, he saw something he did not expect. Fear. The creature was afraid. Without thinking, Minho reached out his hand toward the cocoon. He just wanted to show it that he was not a threat. He just wanted to help. That was who Minho was. He could not see something scared without trying to make it feel safe. His fingers touched the crystal surface behind him. Far away, he heard Yuna shout his name. He heard Taiho curse. He heard a new sound too, a sound of ships landing and alien voices screaming. But it was too late. The cocoon was already beginning to crack. Commander Relos had seen many things in his long life. He had watched stars die. He had walked on worlds where the ground was made of living flesh. He had fought in 3 wars and survived battles that had killed better soldiers than him. But nothing in all his years scared him like the words he had just heard. A human ship has crashed on Varro 7. Rallo stood on the bridge of his warship, the silent blade, staring at the screen that showed the planet below. Varro 7, the Forbidden World, the place where nightmares slept. For 12 years, he had commanded the Varani peacekeeping fleet that guarded this system. For 12 years, nothing had happened. No ships came near. No one was foolish enough to break the quarantine dot until now. How did they get through? He demanded. His voice was cold and hard, but inside he felt anything but calm. We have sensors across the entire system. We have warning beacons. We have patrols. His second officer, a young Varani named Chorus, checked his screens nervously. Like all Varani, he had blue-gray skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on his face, and long fingers with too many joints. Unlike Rilos, he was young. He had never seen what a sleeper could do. Their hyperdrive failed, Chorus explained. They came out of faster-than-light travel inside the quarantine zone. There was no warning. One moment space was empty. The next moment they were falling toward the planet. We tried to contact them, but their communications were damaged. We sent warnings, but they crashed anyway. Rilos closed his 4 eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they were filled with something that might have been despair. Of course they did. They're humans. Relos knew about humans. Everyone in the Galactic Coalition knew about humans, even though the species had only been part of the wider galaxy for a few hundred years. They were young. They were curious. They were brave in ways that made other species call them either heroes or fools, depending on who was talking. They were also completely ignorant about the Sleeper Wars 300 years ago. Before humans had even discovered faster-than-light travel, the galaxy had burned. The Sleepers had risen from their world and swept across the stars like a wave of destruction. 17 civilizations had fallen. Entire planets had been consumed. Trillions of lives had been lost. It had taken every remaining species, working together for the first time in galactic history, to finally stop them. And they had not really stopped them. They had just made them sleep again. No one knew how or why. The Sleepers had simply returned to their world, wrapped themselves in their crystal cocoons, and gone silent. The Coalition had immediately quarantined the planet. Warning beacons were placed. Patrol fleets were stationed. Every child in the galaxy learned the same lesson. Stay away from Varro 7. Never land on Varro 7. And above all, never, ever touch a sleeper. But the humans had not been there for those lessons. The humans did not know. Prepare a landing party, Rilos ordered. Full combat gear. Every soldier we have. We need to reach them before they do something stupid. Chorus looked at him with wide eyes. Sir, we're not supposed to land on the surface. The quarantine protocols are clear. No one sets foot on Varro 7 for any reason. The protocols were written to keep the sleepers asleep, Rilos snapped. If those humans wake them up, protocols won't matter anymore. Nothing will matter anymore. He turned and headed for the door. I'm going down myself. If there's any chance of stopping this, I need to be there. Sir, Chorus called after him. What if we're too late? What if they've already? Rilos stopped at the door. He did not turn around. Then you will follow Emergency Order 7. You will take the fleet to a safe distance. And you will burn the planet until nothing is left alive. He left before Chorus could respond. The shuttle ride down to Varro 7 was the longest journey of Rilos' life. He sat in the back with 20 of his best soldiers, checking and rechecking his weapons. On his hip hung a blade that had been in his family for generations. His grandfather had carried it during the Sleeper Wars. His grandmother had died fighting beside him, trying to protect a world that no longer existed. Relos had grown up on stories of that war. Stories of cities burning. Stories of people running through streets filled with screaming. Stories of the sleepers, those terrible creatures with their too many limbs and their galaxy-filled eyes, tearing through everything in their path. As a child, he had nightmares. As an adult, he had become a soldier. He had dedicated his entire life to making sure the sleepers never woke again. And now some foolish humans were about to undo everything. Commander. One of his soldiers pointed at a screen. We're picking up strange readings from the crash site. Something is happening to one of the cocoons. Ralos felt his heart stop. Not figuratively. For a moment, it literally stopped beating. The Rani hearts did that sometimes under extreme stress. It started again a second later, pounding hard and fast. How close are we? He demanded. 3 minutes. Make it 2. The shuttle screamed through the atmosphere of Varo 7, moving faster than safety allowed. Relos did not care about safety. He cared about reaching those humans before disaster struck. He cared about stopping them from making the biggest mistake in galactic history. Through the shuttle window, he could see the crystal forest below. It was beautiful, he thought. That was the trick of Varo 7. It was the most beautiful planet in the galaxy. Travelers had come here for centuries before the war, just to see the crystal trees and the glowing lights. They had called it paradise. Then paradise had woken up and started killing. The shuttle landed hard in a clearing, not far from the crashed human ship. Ralos was out before the engines had fully stopped, running through the crystal forest with his soldiers behind him. His 4 eyes scanned every direction, looking for threats, looking for humans, looking for sleepers. He found all 3 at the same time. The humans were standing in a group near a cluster of cocoons. There were 4 of them. 2 males, 2 females, all wearing the gray uniforms of the Earth Expeditionary Force. They did not look like soldiers to Relos. They looked like children, young and soft and completely unaware of the danger they were in. One of them, the youngest male, was standing right next to a cocoon. His hand was on the crystal surface, and the cocoon was cracking. Stop! Relos screamed. His voice echoed through the crystal forest, bouncing off the glowing trees. Don't touch them. Get away from there. The humans turned to look at him. Their faces showed surprise and confusion. The older female, the one who seemed to be in charge, raised her hands in a peaceful gesture. But it was too late for peace. The cocoon split open with a sound like breaking glass. Light poured out, purple and blue and white, so bright that even Relos had to cover his eyes. When he could see again, something was standing where the cocoon had been. A sleeper. Alive. Awake. Free. Relos had never seen one in real life. Only in pictures. Only in his nightmares. The reality was so much worse than either. The creature had 6 limbs, all of them long and thin and jointed in strange ways. Its skin was the color of starlight, shimmering and changing. And its eyes really did look like they held galaxies. Stars swirled in their depths. Planets formed and died. Time itself seemed to bend inside those eyes. 300 years of fear came rushing back. Every story his grandfather had told. Every nightmare he had ever had. Every lesson about why the sleepers must never, ever wake. Open fire! Relos commanded. His soldiers obeyed instantly. 20 plasma rifles lit up the crystal forest with deadly light. 20 beams of superheated energy flew toward the sleeper, ready to destroy it before it could destroy them. But something unexpected happened. One of the humans, the older female, threw herself in front of the creature. She took a plasma bolt to her shoulder, and she fell. But she got up again, putting herself between the sleeper and the guns. Stop shooting, she yelled. Can't you see it's just a child? It's scared. Look at it. Relos looked. And for the first time in 300 years, someone really saw a sleeper clearly. The creature was not attacking. It was not destroying. It was huddled on the ground, its 6 limbs wrapped around itself, making a sound that needed no translation in any language. It was crying. Yuna's shoulder was on fire. That was what it felt like, anyway. The plasma bolt had not gone all the way through her armor, but it had burned through enough layers to leave serious damage. She could feel blood running down her arm. She could feel her muscles screaming at her to lie down, to stop moving, to rest. She did not lie down. She did not stop moving. She stood exactly where she was, between the alien soldiers and the trembling creature behind her. "Lieutenant!" Taiho was at her side in an instant, trying to pull her back. "You're hurt." "Let me." "No." Yuna pushed him away with her good arm. "Look at it, Taiho. Really look. Does that look like a monster to you?" Taiho looked. So did Jiwan, who had her medical scanner out and pointed at the creature. So did Minho, who had tears in his eyes because he felt like this was all his fault. The sleeper was small. Much smaller than Yuna had expected from a species that had supposedly destroyed civilizations. It was about the size of a human child, maybe 10 or 11 years old. Its 6 limbs were thin and delicate, folded around its body like it was trying to make itself as small as possible. Its skin shimmered with pale light, but the light was dim, flickering, like a candle about to go out. And its eyes. Those strange galaxy-filled eyes were not looking at them with hate or hunger. They were looking at them with terror. Pure, simple, heartbreaking terror. "It's scared," Jiwan said quietly. She was still reading her scanner, and her face showed deep confusion. "Its vital signs are all over the place. Heart rate extremely high. Stress hormones flooding its system. It's having a full panic attack." "That's impossible," said the alien commander. He stepped forward, his blade still drawn. Yuna noticed that his 4 eyes kept moving between her and the sleeper, like he could not decide who was more dangerous. The sleepers don't feel fear. They are the ones who cause fear. They are weapons, destroyers. They killed trillions of beings across the galaxy. "This one is a child," Yuna said firmly. "I don't care what happened 300 years ago. Right now, in this moment, that creature is a frightened child. I will not let you kill it." The commander stared at her. His soldiers stared at her. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Minho did something very brave, or very stupid, or maybe both. He walked past Yuna, past the alien soldiers, past everyone, and sat down on the ground next to the sleeper. Just sat down, cross-legged, like he was getting ready to have a picnic. "Hey," he said softly. His voice was gentle, the same voice he used when talking to his little sister back on Earth. "It's okay. Nobody is going to hurt you. I promise." The sleeper looked at him. Its galaxy eyes swirled with confusion and fear and something else. Something that might have been hope. "Minho, what are you doing?" Yuna hissed. Her shoulder was hurting worse now, but she ignored it. She was more worried about her youngest soldier sitting inches away from an alien that had supposedly destroyed civilizations. "I'm making a friend," Minho said simply. He did not look away from the sleeper. "That's what my mom always told me to do when I was scared. Find someone to be your friend. Then you don't have to be scared anymore." The alien commander made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a sob. "You don't understand. The sleepers are a hive mind. They share one consciousness across their entire species. When one wakes, the others feel it. And when enough of them wake, then what?" Jiwan asked. She had moved closer too, her scanner still recording data. "What happens when they wake up?" "War," the commander said. His voice was heavy with old pain. death, destruction on a scale you cannot imagine. I was not alive during the sleeper wars, but I grew up on stories from those who were. They told us about cities burning. They told us about fleets being torn apart like paper. They told us about the screaming. But why? Yuna asked. The pain in her shoulder was making her dizzy, but she needed to understand. Why did they do all that? What did they want? The commander looked at her with something like surprise. Want? They didn't want anything. They were monsters, weapons. That's what we were always told. But has anyone ever asked them? The question hung in the air like smoke. Everyone was silent. The sleeper was silent too, but it had stopped trembling quite so much. Its eyes were fixed on Minho, who was still sitting peacefully beside it. Then the sleeper opened its mouth and made a sound. It was not a word. Not exactly. It was more like music, high and strange and beautiful. But inside the music, there was meaning. Yuna did not know how she understood it, but she did. Everyone did. The sound went straight into their minds and became words. We are sorry. Everyone froze. The alien soldiers raised their weapons again. Commander Rilos gripped his blade so tightly his knuckles turned white. But Minho just nodded, like a child speaking to him was the most normal thing in the world. Sorry for what? Minho asked gently. For the hurting. The sleeper's voice, that was not a voice, trembled with emotion. We did not want to hurt. We did not know how to stop. We were young. We were scared. Everything was loud and bright and painful. We lashed out. We hurt so many. And then we felt what we had done. We felt all the pain we caused. It was too much. So we went away. We made ourselves sleep, so we would not hurt anymore. Ji-Wan was crying. Yuna did not notice because she was crying too. Even Taiho, big and tough and practical, had tears in his eyes. Commander Rallos looked like someone had just told him everything he believed was a lie. Because someone had, You put yourselves to sleep? He whispered. 300 years ago, you just stopped? Yes. The sleeper's voice was filled with ancient sadness. We could not control ourselves. We could not stop the hurting. So we chose to sleep forever. It was the only way to keep everyone safe. But the wars, Rello said. The 17 civilizations you destroyed. The trillions of lives. We remember everyone. The sleeper's galaxy eyes filled with swirling tears that looked like dying stars. We carry them with us, always. That is our punishment. That is our choice. To sleep and remember what we did wrong. Minho reached out and took one of the sleeper's lens in his hand. It was a simple gesture, the kind a child might make when comforting a crying friend. The sleeper flinched at first, but then relaxed. Its shimmering skin grew a little brighter. You were just kids, Minho said. You made a mistake. A really big mistake. But you tried to fix it. You've been trying to fix it for 300 years. It can never be fixed, the sleeper said. What we did can never be undone. No, Minho agreed. But you can do better now. Everyone can do better. Yuna felt something change in that moment. Not in the forest. Not in the universe. Just in the hearts of everyone standing there. A shift. A choice. A chance. Commander Relo slowly lowered his blade. His soldiers slowly lowered their weapons. They were not sure what to do now. Everything they had been taught said the sleepers were evil. Everything they had just witnessed said something very different. The other cocoons, Ji-Wan said suddenly. They're changing too, look. Yuna turned. All around them, the crystal cocoons were beginning to glow brighter. Inside each one, something was moving, stirring, waking. It's happening, Rello said. His voice was flat, but fear flickered in all 4 of his eyes. One wakes, and then they all wake. Just like the story said. Then maybe, Yuna said slowly, we should make sure the first thing they see when they wake up is something better than war. She looked at Minho, still holding the young sleeper's limb. She looked at her crew, injured and scared, but still standing. She looked at Commander Relos, whose whole world had just been turned upside down. We have a choice right now, Yuna said. We can repeat the mistakes of 300 years ago. Or we can do something different. Something human. And what is that? Relos asked. Yuna smiled despite the pain, despite the fear, despite everything. We can be kind. 3 weeks had passed since the crash on Vero 7. 3 weeks since the cocoons had opened. 3 weeks since everything the galaxy believed had been proven wrong. Yuna stood on the bridge of a coalition medical ship, watching the planet below through the main window. Her shoulder was mostly healed now, though the doctor said she would always have a scar. She did not mind. The scar was a reminder of the day she had done something that mattered. Beside her stood Commander Relos. He looked different from when she had first met him. The fear was gone from his 4 eyes. In its place was something that looked like peace. The council made their decision this morning, he said quietly. They voted to end the quarantine. Vero 7 will be open to anyone who wants to visit. The sleepers will be free to leave if they choose. Yuna nodded. She had expected this news, but it still made her heart feel light. And what about the sleepers themselves? What do they want? They want to help. Relos almost smiled. After everything we did to them, everything we said about them for 3 centuries, they want to help the galaxy heal. They say they owe a debt that can never be fully repaid, but they want to try. Through the window, Yuna could see lights moving across the surface of the planet. The crystal forest was alive now, filled with sleepers going about their days. They were learning to live again, learning to be awake, learning that the universe no longer hated them. What will they do? She asked. Many things. Some will become healers. Their connection to each other gives them abilities we don't fully understand yet. They can sense pain, emotional and physical. They can help ease it. Others will become teachers. They have knowledge from before the wars, technology and science that the galaxy has never seen. And the young ones? Relos was definitely smiling now. The young ones want to learn about the species they once hurt. They want to understand us. To know our stories, our music, our art. They say it helps them feel connected to the lives they almost took. Yuna thought about the first sleeper to wake. The small one with the galaxy eyes who had been so afraid. She had seen it several times over the past 3 weeks. Each time, it looked a little stronger, a little brighter, a little less scared. And each time, Minho was with it. Speaking of young ones, she said, where is my private? I haven't seen him since this morning. Relos pointed toward the planet. Down there. The young sleeper has been teaching him something. I'm not sure what, but they seem very happy about it. Yuna laughed. Of course Minho was down there. Of course he had made friends with an alien that the entire galaxy had feared for 300 years. That was just who Minho was. He saw something scared and small and different, and his first instinct was always to offer his hand. That was what made him human. Later that day, Yuna took a shuttle down to the surface. She found Minho in a clearing near the crash site of the horizon's edge. The ship had been removed now, taken away for repairs, but the area still showed signs of their landing. Broken crystal, scorched ground, the marks of something terrible that had somehow turned into something wonderful. Minho was sitting cross-legged on the ground, just as he had on that first day. But now he was surrounded by sleepers. Not just a young one, but dozens of them, all different sizes, all watching him with their galaxy eyes. He was telling them a story. And then the hero climbed the mountain, Minho was saying. His hands moved as he talked, painting pictures in the air. It was the highest mountain in all the land. Nobody had ever reached the top before. Everyone said it was impossible. But the hero didn't listen. He just kept climbing, step by step, even when the wind tried to blow him down, even when the cold made his fingers numb, even when everyone else said he should give up. The sleepers leaned forward, captivated. Yuna could feel their attention like a physical thing. They were drinking in every word, every gesture, every emotion. Did he make it? The young sleeper asked. It spoke out loud now, using sounds instead of just thoughts. Its voice was strange, but clear. Did he reach the top? Minho grinned. What do you think? The sleeper thought about it for a moment. Then it smiled too, an expression that looked almost human on its alien face. He made it. Because humans never give up. That's right. Minho reached out and ruffled the sleeper's head, the way he might ruffle his little sister's hair back home. That's the most important thing about humans. We're not the strongest species in the galaxy. We're not the smartest. We're not the fastest or the most powerful. But we never, ever give up. When something seems impossible, we do it anyway. Yuna stepped into the clearing. Like crashing on a forbidden planet and accidentally starting a revolution? Minho looked up, his grin growing even wider. Lieutenant, I didn't know you were coming down. I wanted to see how you were doing. Yuna looked around at all the sleepers. None of them showed any fear at her presence. They just looked curious, interested, maybe even happy. It seems like you're making friends. They're amazing, Lieutenant. Did you know they can see into other dimensions? Like actual other dimensions. They showed me what reality looks like from their perspective. It's insane. Everything is connected. Everything is part of everything else. That sounds complicated. It is. But it's also beautiful. Minho stood up, brushing crystal dust off his uniform. They're going to teach me more. They said humans have a special way of seeing things that they want to understand. Something about how we experience time as a straight line instead of a circle. The young sleeper stood up too, moving to stand beside Minho. It barely came up to his shoulder. But there was a bond between them that went beyond size or species. A bond of trust. A bond of friendship. A bond that had been impossible 3 weeks ago. We have chosen a name, the sleeper said. Its galaxy eyes sparkled with something that looked like joy. Our people do not usually have individual names. We are all one, all connected. But the humans have taught us that individual names can be meaningful. They can represent who you want to be, not just who you are. Yuna felt her heart catch in her chest. What name did you choose? The sleeper looked up at Minho with pure affection. Then it looked at Yuna, at Relos who had just arrived at the edge of the clearing, at Taiho and Jiwan who were walking up behind them. The cocoons were opening everywhere now, not just in the clearing where they stood, but across the entire crystal forest. Yuna could hear them cracking in the distance, like ice breaking on a frozen lake. Hundreds of sounds, thousands, millions, maybe. Commander Relos had his communicator in his hand. His fingers were shaking. One button. That was all it would take. One button, and his fleet would begin the bombardment. One button, and Vero 7 would burn. Don't, Yuna said. She did not have the strength to stand anymore. The pain in her shoulder had become too much, and she was sitting on the crystal ground, leaning against Taiho for support. But her voice was still strong. Please. Give them a chance. A chance? Relos laughed, but there was no humor in it. Lieutenant, you heard what that creature said. They destroyed 17 civilizations. They killed more beings than there are stars in this sector. What kind of chance did they give their victims? None, Yuna admitted. And that was wrong. It was terrible. But they were children, Commander. Children who could not control their power. Children who did not understand what they were doing. And when they finally understood, they chose to stop. They chose to sleep forever rather than hurt anyone else. So we should just forgive them? Pretend the sleeper wars never happened? No, Ji-won spoke up now. She was kneeling beside Yuna, treating her shoulder wound with quick, practiced hands. We should not pretend, but we should understand. There's a difference. Rellos stared at her. Understand what? Why they did it. Why they stopped. Ji-won looked up at the nearest cocoon, where another sleeper was beginning to emerge. We've spent 300 years calling them monsters, weapons, destroyers, but nobody ever asked what turned them into that. Nobody ever wondered if there was a reason. Does it matter? One of Realis's soldiers asked. He was young, about Minho's age, and he looked scared. Whatever the reason, the result was the same. People died. Worlds died. My great-grandmother died on one of those worlds. And I'm sorry for that, Minho said quietly. He was still sitting with the first sleeper, still holding its limb. I really am. But look at this. He gestured toward the creature beside him. Does this look like a weapon to you? Does this look like something that wants to destroy? The young soldier looked. They all looked. The sleeper had curled up against Minho's side, like a cat seeking warmth. Its galaxy eyes were half closed. It looked exhausted. It looked grateful. It looked like a child who had finally found someone who was not afraid of it. Around them, more cocoons opened. More sleepers emerged. Some were larger than the first one. Some were smaller. All of them had the same galaxy eyes, the same shimmering skin, the same too many limbs. And all of them made the same sound when they first came out. The sound of crying, not the crying of attackers. Not the crying of monsters preparing to destroy. The crying of beings waking from a very long sleep, finding themselves in a world that still feared them. Oh God, Ji-won whispered. Her scanner was going crazy, trying to record all the new data. Their emotional readings. Commander, they're not preparing for battle. They're in mourning. They're grieving. All of them, all at once. Rellos closed his 4 eyes. When he opened them again, Yuna saw something she had not expected. She saw doubt. She saw pain. She saw the beginning of understanding. 300 years, he said slowly. We've guarded this planet for 300 years. We taught our children to fear the sleepers. We built our entire society around the idea that they were evil. And now you're telling me. I'm telling you what I see, Ji-won said gently. A species that made a terrible mistake. A species that felt so guilty about that mistake that they chose to imprison themselves forever. A species that has been alone in the dark for 3 centuries, carrying the weight of all those deaths. How is that not a punishment worse than death? Yuna added. They remember, Commander. They said so themselves. They remember every single being they ever hurt. They carry that guilt with them constantly. And they chose that. They chose to suffer rather than risk hurting anyone else. Rellos was silent for a long moment. Around them, the crystal forest was filling with sleepers. They moved slowly, carefully, keeping their distance from the aliens who had invaded their world. But they did not attack. They did not even come close. They just watched with their galaxy eyes, and they waited. One of them, larger than the others, approached the group. It moved with the slow dignity of age, its limbs clicking softly against the crystal ground. When it reached them, it stopped and looked at Commander Rellos. You came to destroy us, it said. Its voice was deeper than the young one's, older, sadder. We do not blame you. We would have done the same. Rellos stared at the ancient sleeper. You remember me? We remember everything. We felt you above us, watching, for 12 years. We felt your fear, your hate. Your determination to end us if we ever woke. The old sleeper paused. We also felt your duty, your love for your people, your desire to protect them. You are a good soldier. You remind us of ourselves once, before we became monsters. What were you before? Minho asked. He was still sitting with the young sleeper, but he was listening intently. Before the war, I mean. What were you like? The old sleeper turned its galaxy eyes toward him. We were curious. We were joyful. We loved to learn and grow and explore. We touched the stars and laughed. We thought the universe was our playground. And then we grew too fast. Our power became too great. We could not control it. When we were afraid, our fear became destruction. When we were angry, our anger became death. We tried to stop. We tried so hard. But we were young, and we did not know how. Taiho spoke for the first time in several minutes. You said you share one mind, a hive consciousness. Does that mean, when one of you hurt someone, all of you felt it? Yes. The old sleeper's voice carried infinite sadness. And when we realized what we had done, when we felt the weight of all those deaths at once, we broke. The pain was too much. We could not bear it. So we chose to sleep. To go away from the universe we had damaged so badly. To give everyone peace. Yuna felt tears running down her face again. She did not try to stop them. But the galaxy didn't give you peace, did they? They put up warning beacons. They stationed fleets. They taught everyone to hate you. We understood. We deserved their hate. We still do. No. Minho's voice was surprisingly firm. No, you don't. You made a mistake. A huge, terrible mistake. But you tried to make it right. You've been trying for 300 years. He looked around at all the sleepers, watching them from the edges of the clearing. You're not monsters. You never were. You were just kids who got too powerful too fast. And nobody helped you. Nobody taught you how to control it. The old sleeper looked at Minho with something like wonder. You truly believe that? Yeah, Minho smiled. I do. Why? Minho thought about it for a moment. Because that's what humans do, he said finally. We mess up all the time. We hurt people. We make terrible mistakes. But we also try to fix them. And we believe that everyone deserves a second chance. Even people who messed up really, really badly. Commander Rielus looked down at his communicator. His finger was still hovering over the button that would call for bombardment. Slowly, deliberately, he moved his hand away. I need to contact the Coalition Council, he said. His voice was tired, but there was something new in it. Something that sounded like the beginning of hope. They need to know what happened here. What we learned. What will you tell them? Yuna asked. Rillos looked at the old sleeper, then at the young one still curled up against Minho. He looked at his soldiers, confused and scared, but no longer pointing their weapons at anything. He looked at the humans, battered and bleeding, but still standing between former enemies. I will tell them the truth, he said. Something we should have done 300 years ago. I will tell them that the sleepers are not weapons. They never were. They were just children. Frightened, powerful, uncontrolled children. And it's time we stopped teaching the galaxy to hate them. Somewhere in the crystal forest, a sleeper made a sound. It was not crying this time. It was something else. Something that sounded almost like singing. One by one, other voices joined in. The sound grew and spread through the forest, through the planet, through the space beyond. A song of hope. A song of healing. A song that had waited 300 years to be sung. The galaxy was about to change. And for the first time in a very long time, it was going to change for the better. We choose to be called Minho, the sleeper said. After the first human who was not afraid of us. After the one who showed us that kindness still exists in the universe. Minho's eyes filled with tears. He did not try to hide them. That's the nicest thing anyone has ever done. You saved us. The sleeper, who was now also called Minho, said simply. You did not see a monster. You saw a friend. That is a gift beyond price. Commander Relos stepped forward. His face was serious, but his eyes were warm. The Coalition Council wants to make a formal announcement tomorrow. They're going to introduce the sleepers to the galaxy as the newest member species. They need a representative to speak on behalf of both sides. Someone who can show that humans and sleepers can work together. He looked at the human Minho and the sleeper Minho standing side by side. I cannot think of better representatives than you two. The next day, a message went out across the galaxy. It was broadcast on every channel, in every language, to every species. Trillions of beings watched as a young human soldier and a young sleeper stood together on a platform made of crystal. 300 years ago, something terrible happened, the human Minho said. Mistakes were made. Lives were lost. Pain spread across the stars like a plague. We were the cause of that pain, the sleeper Minho said. We cannot undo what we did. We cannot bring back those we hurt. We can only move forward and try to be better. That's what this moment is about, the human continued. Not forgetting the past, but learning from it. Not ignoring old wounds, but helping them heal. Not pretending that everything is okay, but working together to make things better. The sleeper raised one of its limbs, and the human took it in his hand. They stood together. Two species that had been enemies for centuries, now joined in friendship and hope. We are Minho, they said together. And this is our message to the galaxy. It's never too late to change. It's never too late to forgive. It's never too late to reach out and find a friend in the darkness. Across the universe, beings of every species watched this moment. Some cried. Some cheered. Some simply stared in wonder at something they had never expected to see. And on a small blue planet called Earth, in a small house in a small city, a young girl watched the broadcast with wide eyes. She saw her brother standing beside an alien, holding its hand, speaking words of peace and hope to the entire galaxy. She smiled. I knew it, she said to her parents. I knew brother Minho was a hero. Far away, among the crystal trees of Vero 7, the human called Minho somehow felt his sister's pride. He looked at the sleeper beside him, at the galaxy stretching out before them, at the future that was now possible because 4 crashed humans had chosen kindness over fear. You know, he said quietly, my mom always told me that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing the right thing anyway. The sleeper nodded. Your mother is wise. Yeah, Minho grinned. She is. And she's going to love meeting you. Together, human and sleeper walked forward into a new era. An era built not on fear, but on understanding. Not on hate, but on hope. Not on the mistakes of the past, but on the promise of the future. And across the galaxy, a new saying began to spread. It was repeated in bars and classrooms, in spaceports and homes, wherever beings gathered to talk about what had happened on Vero 7. When in doubt, they said, do what the humans do. Reach out your hand and see if you found a friend. It was, everyone agreed, pretty good advice.